Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel Off the Underside. How are we all doing? We've got another amazing guest tonight. He's an ex-footballer. He played for Hartlepool, Halifax, Bolton, and Blackpool, and also he's a Premier League manager with Hull City, and also he's been the manager of Southend. How you getting on, mate? It's Phil Brown.
I'm doing okay, Jamie. I'm doing okay. When I lost my position at Kidderminster, I don't know. Do you think it's the end of the world? You know, you've lost a place at a non-league club or a club that's that far down the pecking order, as it were. But management's management, Jamie. It doesn't matter what level you're at. And I've been asked that question many a time. How do you deal with Premier League players compared to, I don't know, Championship first, second, Scottish, Indian, you name it? I've been all over the world, you know. And it's the same. It's the same form. It's the same style. It's the same kind of management that you try and achieve, regardless of who's sitting in front of you. You know. As far as I'm concerned, management. I was made for it. You know. I was captain in a football club at Hartlepool when I was 21, 22 year old, and we had people like Ray Clements and we had some great players in there. You know, it was unbelievable. But it started early on in my career, and hopefully it'll carry on.
Definitely, mate. It's just people are people, aren't they? No matter where you are and that. So, aye, you've been at the top level for a long time, mate, and obviously you've had to go down the leagues and that. But you'll get back in the game soon. I'm absolutely convinced of it, man. But on
Thank
this
you.
channel, Phil, we like to go back to the very start, mate. You were born in South Shields. What's your earliest memories of like kicking a ball about?
Um, the earliest memories were playing for a team called St Oswald's. I don't know if you lads will remember Danny Blanchflower. Danny Blanchflower was a famous England captain back in the day, even before we won the World Cup, one of them. And they named a trophy after him at St Oswald's, and we won the trophy. And I got presented with a trophy and a medal by Jimmy Montgomery, who had pulled that amazing double save off against Leeds United in the 1973 Cup final. To help my beloved Sunderland, who was a team I supported, help them win the FA Cup, which was a phenomenal achievement. And he came to St Oswald's to present the trophy and give us the medals. And I was agog, you know. I was absolutely gobsmacked seeing a pro footballer, and it was one of them moments, I think, that you go, if I just get the chance to be a pro footballer just for once, I'd jump at the chance. And I started life off as an electrician, and I didn't get the chance to be a pro footballer until I was about 19, 20, which is late by the modern day standard. It's way, way down the line. But I got a chance to play professional footballer, be a professional footballer for Hartlepool. So I achieved an ambition to a certain extent, but it all started, I think, that moment I met Jimmy Montgomery.
Aye. You like you said about Hartlepool, Halifax, Bolton, Blackpool. You ended up playing over 500 games in the football league. Which game from your playing days was the most vivid in your memory, and why was it?
Uh, the things that stick in my mind in the early days were when I was at Hartlepool, which was the fourth tier of English football at the time, and we were in a relegation battle year in, year out. And it used to be when you used to have to apply for re-election. You know, if you finished in the bottom four, you had to apply for re-election, and you had to go around cap in hand type thing to get everybody's vote to say no, they deserve to be back in. They deserve to be. So it was a bit of a nonsense, to tell you the truth. But the early days, I remember the cup games more than anything else. You know, where you come up against better players, and you come up against players that you go, wow, I didn't think I'd be on the same field as these guys. You know. We drew against Nottingham Forest. I think it was in the FA Cup. It might have been the whatever it was called in them days. It was probably the League Cup, and we played it against Notts Forest at the Victoria Ground, and then went back to their place. And just coming up against great players, you know, it makes you wonder how far. Well, it made me wonder at the time how far away I was from them. You know, how with all my raw ability, which was very basic, to tell you the truth, I was more of a leader with the voice, you know, my lungs. I could shout. I could see a situation and try and bail people out with my voice. I wasn't really a technically gifted guy, but it was just coming up on the same field as these top players, and I just think, wow, will I ever get there? And I never did. But I then managed to climb that ladder as a coach and a manager, you know.
Yeah, we're big Scottish football fans, mate, as you can probably imagine and stuff. And you know, obviously we know quite a lot about Ange Postecoglou because he was up here for a while. And I always remember seeing an interview, because it just reminded me there when you were talking about that. I seen an interview that he said when he was playing in Australia and that you know, he had ability and stuff, but he just felt his calling was always coaching. You know, even from a young age. And that, is that something that you can relate to? Do you think?
I can relate to it. I didn't realise it at the time until one of your fellow brothers, Bruce Rioch, came to the changing room at Bolton Wanderers. He followed Phil Neal in, and when Bruce arrived, listen, Phil Neal was a right back the same as what I was, and I was thinking at the time when I was leaving Halifax. I remember I went from Hartlepool to Halifax, so it was a step up in terms of moving into a closer proximity to, you know, the world of football, as it were. The northeast was a little bit of an outpost, to say the least, but it was a hotbed. There's no doubt about it. You know, Sunderland, Newcastle, Middlesbrough produced players, no doubt about it. But I wanted to get further into the Manchesters, the Liverpools, you know, that area of the country. You know, so you were sort of in the middle of it all, and it was one of them where when I went to Bolton Wanderers. I had a choice of clubs. I had 3 or 4 clubs that were chasing me. I had 2 or 3 great years at Halifax, and I had 2 or 3 clubs chasing me then. But Bolton Wanderers being one of them, under Phil Neal. My mother was saying to me, "He plays for England at right back. He's got to be the best right back in the country. He might even be the best right back in the world. You've got to sign for him. He'll teach you how to play right back." So I did. I followed my mother's instincts, and I went with Phil Neal, and he didn't teach me anything. You know, he wasn't a coach. He was a figurehead. You know, played for Liverpool, played for England 51 times, and this, that, and the other, and then managing Bolton Wanderers. He was a figurehead, no doubt about it. He was, you know, he was still playing. He could still play. He was a great player, there's no doubt about it. But Mick Brown was the coach, and Mick coached me more than what Phil Neal did. But then when Bruce Rioch arrived, he could see I was I wasn't drifting away from the game, but I had businesses on the go. I was an electrician by trade, so I had my own electrical business. I had a bar, I had a restaurant, I had a nightclub. And Bruce thought I was going to drift away from the game of football. And he stopped me one day and he just said, "You, get in my office." And I thought, "Aye, what have I done wrong here?" And he went, "If you think you're going out the game at 32, 33, think again." He said, "Start doing your badges, start doing your coaching badges, start doing the certificate of applied management." And that bit of advice, bumping into Bruce Rioch at the right time in my career, was priceless. And that was the reason why I started going down that lane of going into coaching and management. Did I think it was me calling early on in my career? No, I was just a loudmouth. I was a captain. I could call a player out. I could motivate somebody. You know, it was already in me that. But to actually get the qualifications to then stand up in front of a group of players, my word, you need a pair of gonads to do that, and I eventually grew a pair of them as well.
You were a versatile and reliable defender back in the day, but who was the most toughest opponent you played against in your playing days?
Tough opponents, I tell you. In 5-a-sides at Bolton Wanderers, we had 3 Scottish lads came down to us, and I'm not saying it just because you're Scottish. We had John McGinley, we had Owen Coyle, and we had Andy Walker, and all 3 of them were almost what you call jack in the box. You know, whenever there's a half a chance to come bang, it was in the back of the net, and they were all really prolific goal scorers. I thought really good technicians in the final piece of the jigsaw, in the penalty box or the 6-yard box. They were really good at that. And as a fullback, I was thinking to myself, what do they want? You know, what they after? As a defender, I'm thinking they want space, and they were always looking at your movement. They were watching what you were doing, you know, whether you were actually aware of them. You know, that spatial awareness, what the great players have got. I thought them 3 players in particular were the toughest players I could. But I learned my trade from them, you know, training with them, playing with them. You learn your trade playing against them in 5-a-sides, 7-a-sides, in tactical battles and things like that. And thank God I never actually played against them in the real game. But no, I think I would honestly say I learned an awful lot from them 3 strikers. And I've always wanted to have a striker like them, not necessarily the guy that's a great build-up player, not necessarily the guy that's the big number 9. The one that you don't see too often in a game of football, then bang, 1-0, bang, 2-0. They're priceless for me. And to coach one of them, I don't think you can coach them. I think they're unmanageable to a certain extent. You've just got to give them the shirt and then wait for the opportunity. When it comes along, it's in the back of the net.
I think you ever had a player like that then in your managerial time?
I tried many times. I really did. At Hull City, I brought Fraser Campbell in, and I thought Fraser was closest, I thought, to that. But he partnered Dean Windus at the time. And Dean Windus was a target man. He was a hold-up player, but he also had an eye for goal. But Fraser got the benefit of that presence of Dean Windus. The other one would have been Nicky Barmby. Nicky Barmby was he was a great player. Jack in the box. He really was a box of tricks as well. But it wasn't his only position. He knew the game of football so well. He could drop in the midfield. He could play wing. He plays a 10. Honestly, he was a brave lad as well. Nicky might only be 5'7", 5'8", but I tell you what, same as McGinley, he was only 5'7", 5'8", but they were decent in the air. They would go up a centre half, put their hand on the shoulder, stop the centre half from getting any spring. They were very clever. So I had a couple at Hull City, and when I went to Swindon, I tried to emulate that. I had a lad called Simon Cox, who came from Bristol City, and he was distant. He was different class as well. Strikers they're a different breed. They really are. They take something to wear the number 9. To wear the number 10, to actually lead the line, to be the one that actually, we've won the game 1-0. They've scored. They've not touched the ball, but they've scored. They're a different breed, and they're a rare breed. And if you can get your hands on one, my word, you've got a half a chance as a manager and keep you in work. I tell you, they keep you in work.
Don't know how much you've seen him, mate, but when you're talking about it, it's reminding me of Birmingham City. I've now got one mate, Kyogo. I don't know how if you've seen much of him at Celtic and that, but he's going to do a good job, mate. Obviously, he scored last night as well, but I think he's exactly the type of player you're talking about. Obviously, not at the highest level, but
He'll disagree below me, but
He's not going Diogo's not got the presence of the 3 players he spoke about. But
I never said he did, mate. But I'm just saying it's like the type
I'm
of player.
not comparing.
No, I'm not comparing Kyogo to Nicky Barmby or Fraser Campbell and that, but he's that type of player though.
Just half a chance.
The more we talk, gentlemen, about football, the more we'll get into a style of player. And number 9, they're the icing on the cake. They're the ones that finish the move off. They're the ones that actually you build a team around. If you get a good enough one, you can change your philosophy, you can change your style of play, you can do anything. You've got a guy that just finishes it off. It doesn't matter how you get there. Just get the ball into an area, put it in the back of the net. When you get them, as I say, they keep you in work, but they'll also get you promoted.
Definitely. At your time at Blackpool. Oh, what was that question? I had that question there. 2 seconds. If somebody else has a question, I've lost my question.
Go, David, you got a question. You got a question.
Aye.
That's shocking, isn't it? Anyway,
I'll
back to
ask you a
today. Modern.
question.
Right, go there.
On you go, mate. No, on you go. I can ask mine anytime.
Modern day football, Phil, obviously, we spoke about it there. Number 9s in that. Back in the day, it was 4-4-2. How do you feel, today's game looks? I don't feel it's as good as back in the day myself, but, I know a lot of people probably disagree with it.
No, it's different eras, different time zones, different people, different mentalities. I've been in the game 47 years, so I've moved along with their mentalities or changed them or modified myself or whatever. You've got to go with the flow. You've got to move on. And I think Peter Reid was asked a similar question when they opened the stadium at, I call it Goodison still because, when you played there, what a stadium that is, by the way, at Everton. The new one's going to be a shrine to great footballers, great football. And really was part of an old 11 that opened the stadium or played in the game that opened the stadium. And he was asked about questions sort of afterwards. And one of the questions was, can the modern day, can you play in the game today? Could your team that you've just played with, could they play in the game today? And Peter went, hold on a second. What about the players now? Can they play in the day I played? There's the question. No. And he spun it completely on his head. And I think Peter was clever, really clever where that was concerned. He spun it on his head. It's just that there's a massive difference. And the thing is, you do actually morph into a different coach. You change your ways, you change your methods, you change your mentality. You actually people some slack for not working hard enough, which I never ever thought in a million years I would say. But you do, because sometimes you have to conserve energy. And the ones who do it cleverly are the ones who are playing at the top, because their ability takes care of itself. But there's certain ways and means that I've moved on. And one of them is that final piece in the jigsaw, that number 9, if you can actually manufacture one, if you can make it so that your team are playing in a way that benefits him, that suits his style of play. I'm not one for Sam Allardyce has got a podcast called Tippy Tappy Football. I'm not one. I'm with Sam on that one. I'm not one for playing football in your own 6-yard box. Not at all. And a funny story, like when Sam was a Bolton Wanderers number 5, he was playing alongside Paul Jones, and Paul Jones was a 6 because he was a ball player. But Sam wanted to wear the 6, and Paul Jones said, "Get on with it. You know, I'll put the 5 on, no problem." It was 5 and 6 back in the day, 2 and 3 as a right back and a left back. And the old manager at Bolton Wanderers was getting the players to try and pass the ball from right back to left back at the back, and it kept on missing Sam out. And Sam's like, "Ooh." So he pulls Jonesy at half time in one of these games, and he said to Paul Jones, he said, "Why aren't you passing me the ball? Why you're going from left back to the right hand centre back? You're missing me. Why are you not passing me?" Said the manager said, "You can't handle the ball, so we don't have to pass. We don't have to pass you." And I was like, "Wow, this is unbelievable." When you cut your cloth accordingly, when you come up with a plan, it normally is it's developed with a group of players, a new group of players in pre-season. So you've got 6 weeks to develop a plan. If you've got players that can play, carry on with it, no problem. But I still don't believe in playing from the goalkeeper to a centre half or another centre half in the 6-yard box. I do not see any benefit from it. If somebody wants to press me, all I've got to do is get a half a block in, and it could be in the back of the net. I don't think centre halves, with all due respect, were built that way to be able to see great passes unless you go to the highest level. Why can't you start outside the penalty box? And if you do give it away, you've still got the other centre half that can bail you out, maybe. But once you're there in that 6-yard box, forget about it. One touch, it's in the back of the net. I don't want to put too much pressure on my 2 centre halves or 3 centre halves. I don't want to put too much pressure on my goalkeeper by forcing them to do something that a lot of teams clearly can't do, and the centre halves clearly are not able to do it. So the modern day game, yes, if you say it's moved past me, get on with it, no problem. I'll play my way, and I'm still in the game after 47 years, so I must be doing something right.
I totally agree with everything you said. You know, they two are probably going to realise what I'm trying to say here. You know what I'm going to try and say here, innit?
I know, but he's got to say, and it's something to do with RM.
Yes.
Isn't it, Corey?
Yes, as
I knew it. What? That's how you
Well,
describe with these days.
we've been talking quite a bit recently, obviously, about Rangers. Russell Martin has just went in at Rangers.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the way he plays, as I'm sure you know.
By the way, and you're playing for Rangers, you're in front of 50,000 every week, and
exactly.
some more all around the world, and it's unforgiving. It's unforgiving. You make a mistake in your own 6-yard box, regardless of what the coach is saying. You've either got to have it out with the coach. You've either got to go in half time and say, "I can't do this, so either get rid of me, don't play me, or if you do play me, stop playing this way." There's got to be some meeting of the powers that be. The powers that be are the guy that's standing on the ball. There's the first one. Not the manager, not the coach, not the supporters. The guy that's got the ball at his feet. He's the one under pressure, but he's also the one in control. Now, if he can't handle that, he's got to go to Russell Martin and say, "Listen, I can't play for Rangers in front of this crowd. The demands are too great." If he can, and Russell Martin wants to get on with that, then okay, it's a marriage in heaven. But when that mistake comes along, the coach has got to put his hand up, not the player.
I agree. I mean,
I get what you mean there.
Obviously, we have been talking about that quite a bit lately, but
just
you know,
Jamie.
I'm a Celtic fan. Corey's a Celtic fan, and you can see David's a Rangers fan. But you know, I've been called biased and stuff like that because you know Russell Martin came out last week. We'll get back to your career in a minute, Phil. But since we've got this up, right? You know,
let's take
Russell came out after the Motherwell game, after one league game, and he basically slated Tavernier, he slated Raskin, and a few of the players saying that their attitude's not good enough and they need to. What do you make of that, mate? If you just walked into a football club and done that after one league game?
It's difficult. He's trying to make his mark. I understand that part. And there's a lot of managers doing that now, but I don't think they're doing it in the right way. No, I'm not saying Russell's one of them, but I looked at Ruben Sellers, and I've watched his career quite interestingly enough of late, because he's managed teams like Southampton, which Russell Martin did. He's done Reading, which was a car crash at the time. He's done Hull City, which was a car crash at the time. He's now at Sheffield United, being beaten 4-1 in the first game against Bristol City at home. And he's demanding certain ways of playing. You know, I understand that managers and coaches have their own style, no problem at all. But if I went into a football club, I'd find out what the problem was, why I've been given the job, and can I do something to fix that? And give me the job because I can. Don't give me the job because you want me to play a certain way. Now, I'm talking about the incumbent. I'm talking about the guys above the manager. If the incumbent are sort of ducking for cover because they're almighty Rangers or almighty Celtic are getting beat week in and week out, it doesn't look like they're going to win the title, then they're ducking for cover. They're waiting for the manager to put his head above the parapet, which he has to. I get that part. But when he puts his head above the parapet and says, we are playing football, then the players have got to step up to the plate. If he's not saying we're playing football, we're going to hit the front man, this is the style of football we're going to play. If you come to the game, you're supporting us. You're still a Rangers fan, you're still a Celtic fan, you've still got the colours on. Wear your colours with pride, and I'll get a tune out of them players. Now, if one of them factions, either supporters, either the players, or the management and the hierarchy, if one of them factions are out of sync, out of tilter, that's mismanagement. You've got to start off with a plan and put that plan on the table so everybody agrees with it. Now, supporters will always disagree when you lose games of football. I get that part. But you've got to be confident in your own ability, of your team's ability, and your ability that you're going to impress the guys above. You've got to be confident that you can turn that corner. And when you turn that corner, you're in heaven. It's the greatest place to be because you've got everybody on the same page.
I could listen to you all day, Phil. Man. I'm
No,
ready
man,
to
that's
go
brilliant.
war, man.
My
Ready
question,
to go war.
Phil, see you keep talking about like number nines. What do you make of the false nine?
I get it. I only get it at the highest level, and I don't mean this any disrespectful of the lower level. But when you get a false nine at the lower level, first and foremost, have the players got the ability to find that false nine and therefore understand the space that is vacated? Who's going to take that? Now, is that a midfield long burst and run to go beyond it? But then it becomes third man running. You've got to have technicians in your midfield. You've got to have defenders that can see a false number nine. When you see it happening, and when you see it working, by the way, it's fantastic. But it's normally at the highest level. I'm being disrespectful of the lower level there. There are players that can handle it, but maybe not 10 outfield players in any one given team in the lower leagues. Maybe 2 or 3 can see it, and maybe 2 or 3 can't see it, and therefore it falls flat. But when you go higher, normally everybody can see that, and it's a great question to ask a centre half. I want to, as a centre half or a defender, I want to have contact. I want to see somebody. I want to feel somebody. I want to touch somebody.
Right.
When somebody disappears in there and there's nobody coming in, I'm like, ooh, what do I do? And all it needs to do is drag a centre half in, and then you've got a clever run from midfield. You've got to be able to see it. I was in a game last night. I was covering Bolton Wanderers against Sheffield Wednesday, because Sheffield Wednesday is the biggest car crash in the game at the moment. Anyway, long story short, I'm doing BBC Radio Manchester, and I'm covering. I was at Bolton for years and years, so they're using me for that, and it's great to see. But they had the academy playing. They had the young lads of Sheffield Wednesday, and about 4,000 punters turned up, and it was fantastic to see. But they had a young academy that were expressing themselves on a first team pitch, and it was delightful to see. It was brilliant to watch. It was fabulous to see. But Bolton made it easy for them. Now, if I'm a coach against an academy team, if I create space by squeezing up to the halfway line, a little bit like what Ange Postecoglou did at Spurs last season. Bolton players were right on the touchline. It was almost they were touching the halfway line, and there was no pressure on the ball. With all due respect, guys, any one of the 4 of us could play a pass into space in them situations, and all you got to do is get a run on the end, and that's the reason why it ended up 3-3. It was the most open game I've seen. But academy team scored 3 goals against the Bolton Wanderers. Decent string, and that's the reason why Bolton. That's the reason why Bolton lost the game on penalties.
Who was did Charles play in goals for Sheffield Wednesday last night?
He did, yeah. He made a couple of great saves. He made a couple of great saves on penalty. Yeah, He didn't look
I
big
want
enough.
him at
That's the only
Rangers.
question out. I was watching him from distance. He just didn't look big enough. And he was tested
Aye.
a couple of times with, not with shots, because shots around him, he covered everything. But he was tested a couple of crosses and he looked a little bit iffy. So straight away you're thinking, oh, is he the right stature? But the penalties came along. He got a touch on more or less every penalty. Whereas
Aye.
the ball keeper got nowhere near anyone. And I think they lost 5-3 on penalty.
Would you
Aye,
say
I
then,
watched them.
obviously Sheffield Wednesday aren't looking good at the moment? Would you say they've got a chance this season then, if they played well last night?
They've only got a chance if the owner starts paying the bill, because it doesn't matter who it is. It could be any one of the four of us. If we're working for a living and somebody at the end of the week doesn't give you a wage, well, I know what I would be thinking. I'm not too
Well,
sure what I'd be
we've
doing.
supplied them with 2.2 million for one of their players, so hopefully the players get paid. And there's a rumour I seen the day that Rangers and West Ham are trying to buy the goalkeeper, but they've not had a response. Paid for them a bid
Well,
£1 million, and they've not had a response for Sheffield Wednesday.
well, I mentioned Dean Windus. His son went to Wrexham and scored on the opening day of the season against Southampton. He's gone on a free transfer. Now,
Aye.
correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, whether you've got businesses or not. If you're there to pay the bill and you don't pay the bill, it should be taken away from you. Whether that be a business, whether that be a football club or whatever, it should be taken away from you. It's like a house. If you can't afford to pay your mortgage, the house goes. You don't keep the house. You don't hang on to false promises and all this rubbish. Somebody takes your house off you, and the next thing you know, you're on the streets. This guy's not paying the bill for 4 months. He's let 4 players go on free transfers, and he could have got a transfer fee for all 4 of them players. Dean Windus' son being one of them. Now, for me, that's just a waste. It's profligate. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of people's time, and it's actually killing a very good historical club, which is it's harsh to see. And I'm a Bolton Wanderers fan, if you want to call that. And for to see them go out on penalties, it was to a finer club. And what I mean by that is their needs are now. Their needs must be realised now. And they won the game on penalties. Well done. Get on with it. They've got Leeds United, by the way. That'll pay a few bob as well.
It's just horrible to see when clubs are in that state. I mean, I was in Morecambe about, was that 2 months ago or something like that, and there was obviously, the stuff that's going on with them now, and I was standing outside the ground and that at the front, and you could just feel the atmosphere, it was people coming in and out and that, and they looked unhappy, and it's just horrible to see, because people forget that, Phil, obviously, you'll know.
Jamie, it brings people together. Leicester against Sheffield Wednesday, opening game of the season. Sheffield Wednesday fans are going to be 5 minutes late, and that's their demonstration. When they came in the stadium stopped playing football, and it was a round of applause. That's Leicester City against Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, we know what we go through. Everybody wants to win, but at the same time, everybody loves the team. Everybody wants to support a team. I've been involved with probably 11 clubs now as a manager, 4 clubs as a player, and numerous clubs as a coach as well. But Sunderland's still my team. When I was a pup, I used to go and stand on the Fulwell end, and I was there at 1 o'clock cheering my team on. Nobody on the pitch. You didn't have a warm up back in them days. Nobody on the pitch till 3 o'clock. I had 2 hours of chanting. That was my contribution to building up an atmosphere. That was my passion, and I've never lost it for Sunderland. But at the same time, biggest loss of my career, I never managed them. Disaster.
No yet.
That's
Still
still
time.
Who knows?
Well, you'll be happy, man. This season, mate, obviously going back up to Premier League, yeah?
Absolutely. But we've made quite a few signings, and Reggie Lebris surprised me last year, because I thought he looked like he was flooding the place with young people, young lads, and I thought when they got to the playoffs, I thought maybe them young lads might freeze. My word, they stepped up to the plate, both in the semi-finals and the final. It was brilliant to see. So maybe Reggie's got a way about him, that's Granit Xhaka's an interesting one for me. 32, 33, maybe he's the difference in that changing room now. Instead of it being young and dynamic and players that have never played in the Premier League, they've all of a sudden brought this absolute, well, I'm not saying legend, but he's certainly been around the block, and they're bringing him in. He doesn't look like a Reg player, So it's going to be interesting, really interesting. I'm holding out for survival. That's all I'm thinking.
The youngsters are in good hands
Survival
anyway,
until
mate.
Windsor and Newcastle.
The youngsters are in good hands, mate, because we've had Graham Murray on, mate, and obviously he's done a brilliant job there, and the way he was talking and that, there's quite a lot of talent coming through, so.
Aye, aye. But when you say Newcastle, I'll tell you a story. I was at Hull City, obviously, in the Premier League. All we had to do was finish 17th to survive. And we were getting another, I think at the time it was about a 60, 65, 67 million pound payback. What is it now? 300 million. But listen, you get paid for what's happening at that time. So we were getting 65 million back in the coffers for finishing 17th. And we started off well, and we had the half-time team talking Man City, and I was absolutely pilloried for it, and this, that, and the other. But nobody remembers. After that, we survived. But that was the job. That's what I had to do. And at the end of that season, can you believe I volunteered to do the Great North Run? And the Great North Run starts at Newcastle, go across the Tyne Bridge, ends up in South Shields, my hometown, and it is full. The route is full, millions of people, but they're all Sunderland, Newcastle, or Middlesbrough supporters. And we sent down Newcastle and Middlesbrough, and we survived. So I'm running with my backroom staff. Every one of them's got a first team Hull City strip on. I got absolutely battered for 13 miles. I tell you what, I had a crash helmet on all the way around. But I survived it. And I did under 2 hours as well. So there you go.
That's
Well done, mate.
that's
Well done.
impressive.
Obviously, since you brought it up, mate, the Etihad moment, obviously you've spoken about it to death, I'm sure, but, like, I just want to ask, was that a premeditated thing that you thought about doing, or was it just something you went, you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and do this?
I don't think I do plan. And if you call that premeditation, where the plan's concerned, I think we were meticulous at the start of that season when we got promoted from a great day at Wembley and this, that, and the other. But we went on a away day. We locked the guys away. I'm talking about the staff now, not the players, for a couple of days, and we chewed the fat and talked about signings and this, that, and the other, and how we looked. And I'd been saying in the press that every player that got promoted from the Championship to the Premier League will play. There's no doubt, will play. You'll have a game too. You prove yourself that you can play in the Premier League. So you got to stay. You will play. And then we had to add 9, 10, 11 players, whichever it was. So a lot of meticulous and a lot of planning went on. And then came that day where it was Boxing Day, and I got wind just before the game that 2 of the players were out on the lash the night before, and I had already picked the team. The team was on the pitch. It was Brian Horton that told me, "Hey, Brian was a great assistant manager for me, over 1,000 games as a manager. What a joy to work with." Steve Parkin, who's now doing a great job at Wrexham, he had 350, 400 games as a manager himself, and he was my first team coach. I had great experience behind me. And they're on the bench, and we're 4-0 down, and just before kickoff, Brian had said to me, by the way, a couple of these were on the last night, worst away for drink. Brian, I couldn't believe, Brian, you're just telling me this now? He said, well, I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know when to tell you. I only got to know 2 o'clock. I just didn't know how. I didn't know what you would do, and this, that, the other. So I'm telling you. And then 4-0 down at half time. So I always thought, when I was playing Sunday League football, I had a couple of coaches, John Sayers and Donald Gudgeon, and they ran the football club with an iron fist to a certain extent, but it was amateur. It was non-league. It was Sunday League. It was a pub team. It was this, that, and the other. But I had these 2 guys to look up to, and they used to deliver every half-time team talk on the pitch at half-time, and they probably had a couple of pints before they played. But that was the life I was brought up with. If we were doing wrong, if we were doing something poorly, these 2 guys would be at us, and we had a standard, and it was non-league. It was Sunday League, but we had a standard that you weren't performing. You would get a boot up your backside on the pitch in front of everybody, and that's what this team needed. So when I walked on the pitch, Ian Ashby was walking off the pitch, who was my captain, and he was walking off the pitch, and Ash went, "Where you going, Gaffer?" And I went, "Cross there in front of the supporters." Why? Half-time team talk. He just turned round, spun round, followed me. That was enough for me. If he had carried on down the tunnel, I would have thought long and hard about it. I might have just gone across there. If he was followed by players and I'm walking across there to the punters on my own, it would have been for an apology round of applause. But as soon as Ash turned round, that was me and him. Everybody else just followed. So when you've got leaders doing that, and then you've got followers coming to find out, oh, what's happening here, it was a must. I had to do it. It was great seeing the Man City fans, great to see City doing well over United and this, that, and the other. because United had it long and hard, didn't they, for 20 odd years. But for City to do it, but I'm telling you, the City fans are all going to the halftime pasties or pies or glass of wine or whatever it is nowadays, and lo and behold, half the stadium were going up the steps, half the stadium turned back, and they were watching as well. They were thinking, hello. And the amount of people that come up to you and say, brilliant, I would have done that as well. But it's all well and good. You know, I've been pilloried for it. I've been slaughtered for it. I've been praised for it. I've got 3 jobs for it. You know, I got interviewed for 3 jobs, and all the chairman, all the owners wanted to talk about what happened that day. Tell me what your thoughts are. And when you give them your thoughts, they're into it. They're buying. You know, I'm not trying to sell here. They're just buying. That'll do for me.
Nah, there's nothing wrong with what you've done. At the end of the day, you showed a bit of passion, which is lacking in today's game. You know, I don't think you'd ever see a manager even doing that now. I don't think there's any manager out there who'd have the balls to do that, to be honest.
Aye. Did Ceres no date on Saturday? Sheffield Sunday, Sheffield United.
He did it after the game, I think. He did it after the game, and they'd been beaten 4-1, and it was a lackluster performance from minute 1. But I'm not saying he copied me. I'm not saying any of that, you know. But this guy had a pro license, Ruben Sellers, at 25-year-old, so he knew where he was going. He's managed in six countries before he came to England. You know, you've heard the 4 car crashes basically that he's had in England so far, and he had a pro license at 25, and he's got a first degree in sports psychology. If he does that, that's good enough for me. I'm a working class lad that served his time on the banks of the Thames as an electrician. Mine wasn't sports psychology. Mine was working class men and women and children in the stand being let down. I didn't ever come out with the 2 that were on the lash, by the way. Never, ever. And I made 2 substitutions. I made 2 substitutions at half time, and that wasn't the 2. It was, I wanted to bring, I'm going to say fresh legs, but that's too easy to say. But I had Craig Fagan on the bench, and I knew how much Craig Fagan, who was my assistant manager at Southend, second time around, great lad. He's managing now at the moment. He's doing, I think he's doing Maidstone with George Ellacobi as an assistant manager. He's doing his apprenticeship. And Craig Fagan was on the bench, and he wanted to rip my head off when I named the team. Why? Because he knew who the 2 were, and them 2 were playing. So the changing room knew. So when I played Craig at half time, and I can't remember who else I put on, it might have been the big fella that was at Rangers.
Yelovich.
What's his name? He scored a goal against that. Who?
Is it no Yelovich?
No. It'll come to me. He African player. Not. Oh dear me, what's his name? Anyway, it'll come. And so I think I brought them 2 on. But Craig Fagan wanted to prove a point to me, and he scored. And we lost the game 5-1. So if you want to call it a draw, you know, in the second half, whatever. The change in dynamics of the 2 teams were absolutely palpable. You could measure it just by the running stats that I got at the end of the game. The running stats in the second half compared to the first half. So did a half-time team talk do that? Did the 2 changes? Did the fact that Craig Fagan wanted to show me I'm playing the next game because 2 of these lads have let you down and me. So I'm playing the next game. Lo and behold, he played the next game, and he did well for me after that. I tell you, maybe he did well for me anyway, Craig. He was a good lad.
I just wanted to talk, like you've touched on a wee bit, the day in Wembley, but see when you arrived in Hull City, did you genuinely believe that you could ever get promotion? Did you have that in your head?
When we survived in the championship, it was a real tough gig, you know. But we got there in the last game of the season, and then I met the owners, the new owners. And since I met the owners, I thought fresh ideas, fresh something about them, you know. Paul Duffin became probably the best chairman I've worked for, because he was the chairman of the football club, but not the owner. He was a shareholder, but he wasn't the owner. When you got the chairman as well as the owner in one bag, it's a real tough gig, you know. You've got to appease the same guy. Sometimes you can get around it by giving it to the chairman in the cold light of day on a Monday morning, who then passes it on to the board of directors and the owner. Maybe that wasn't my best gig, you know, going to an owner and telling them exactly how it was. sometimes you have to curtail that. Sometimes you have to think about what you're saying. You have to respect the people that pay the bills. I understand that 100%. But I'm passionate, and sometimes if somebody was there winding me up, that would be it. I'd be in 2-footed, whether it be a press conference, whether it be a board meeting. And I've learned to deal with that over the years. But, Paul Duffin was brilliant for me. And I think it has to be said I was brilliant for him. And together, he took the pressure off me. I took the pressure off him. And we went forward together. He was part of the backroom staff. That's the best I can say about Paul Duffin. He was asking so many questions in board meetings. And I said to him, Chairman, I said, with all due respect, all of these questions that you're asking will be answered in staff meetings on a Monday morning. Do you want to come along? And he went up, jumped out of his chair. Absolutely, 100%. He was part of the backroom staff, and that for me gelled the whole thing together at Hull City. And that's the reason why we gradually just went up the league table. He understood us more. Therefore, he understood the way we played football. They understood tactics, more about the opposition. He understood a lot of things that he didn't understand before we actually invited him into a staff meeting. And he was good for us because if we wanted him to contribute from a financial point of view or from a sponsorship point of view, he would chip in.
But see, the player that came on Man City, was it Sonny Aluko?
The players who came off at half time are the players that went on the lash.
No, the player that came on, that just popped in my head. Was it Sonny Aluko?
No.
So,
it was. You'll know who it is, man. He had a watch fetish. He had about 90
fetish.
Unbelievable. He had a watch fetish. He must have had about 90 watches when he came to me. Oh, dear mate.
Daniel Kuzan.
There you go. Daniel Kuzak. I think came off the bench with Craig Fagan. But Daniel did well for me. He wasn't. I wouldn't have said he was the greatest footballer in the world, but he could lead the line if in a certain manner. If we were throwing things into a penalty box, he would mess centre halves around. He would actually run channels for you. I'm not saying the Premier League was about running channels, but he would actually test the centre half in behind as well. As soon as he got wind of how we were playing, he jumped on board with it. So yeah, there was a lot to like about Daniel Kuzak from my perspective. Whether you're Rangers fans and you didn't like him, I don't know.
Definitely a good player.
He was all right. Aye, he scored a couple of memorable goals for us as well.
Leon in Champions League.
Werder Bremen, remember that one? And the keeper.
I remember one.
And then Celtic.
I was just going to say, I remember that question I was meant to ask about Blackpool. It was about under Sam Allardyce. Did you have much influence and lessons for Big Sam, or was it you were more on the same level?
No, when the big man decided to take me on board, I was coming to the end of his career because that age was telling you that 37, 38, and he was saying you wouldn't be playing every game, and you've done your badges, so you're obviously going to go down that line, and you can't run forever, you can't play forever. And then all of a sudden an opportunity came along. Bobby Saxton, who used to be Blackburn manager and Exeter. He had a few gigs, I think Plymouth as well. And Bobby Saxton was the assistant manager, and he got the sack. Billy Bingham sacked him, and Sam phoned me up one Thursday night and offered me the job. It was unbelievable because I was on good money as a player, and I had to take a 75% cut in wages to become a coach who was there 24/7. As a player, I was there 2 hours a day, getting this kind of money. Anyway, long story short, it was an offer to get on the ladder as a coach. And Sam always said these words, always ring in my ear: never underestimate the offer of a coaching position, albeit it was 75%, drop in wages. My wife at the time, she took 3 jobs on so we could survive, we could make it work. And after a year, I'd left Blackpool. I was at Bolton Wanderers in the Premier League, and I was earning quite a bit of money. I was paying 5 times as much as my wages in tax at Bolton Wanderers. So it worked. The whole thing worked. I've got problems now, gentlemen. I've got the families deciding to come into the clubhouse.
That's all right. I'm more welcome to say
That's all right.
It might be time to cut it off. Come here, Monty. Come here. Eva, come here. you want to